Welcome to the Haymaker MMA Show with your hosts, Taha and Ian Wall.
Welcome into the Haymaker MMA Who's Gonna Win This Weekend with your host Ian Walsh and my friend Taha. We're going to be breaking down Thiago Santos versus Glover Teixeira in this upcoming UFC fight night. Starting off the card, we're going to be Max Griffin versus Ramiz Brahimaj. Taha, break it down for me.
So, this is a welterweight bout with Max Griffin at minus 170 and Ramiz Brahimaj at plus 138. Max Griffin coming in with a record of 15-8, 3-6 in the UFC. So he's been there, but he hasn't won too many. And then he lost his last fight in March, but he also boasts a record with 7 TKO KOs and 2 submissions. On the other hand, the underdog Brahimaj, he comes in with a record of 8-2-0, but no UFC fights. And he has 8 submissions. 8 out of 8 fights that he's won, 8 submissions. So that's a big one to note. What do you think for a pick?
Man, I'm looking at Brahimaj out of Fortis MMA with some good submissions. You know, Max Griffin coming off of like a 4-fight skid. One of his only 2 wins is coming over a debut guy was also a 0 wins in the UFC, and Mike Perry, who's also a dog. So that's a kind of a surprising one that makes it interesting in there. But nonetheless, nobody who he's fought has kind of tested his wrestling before. I see Brahimaj's best path to victory being wrestling and finding a submission, whether it be a guillotine or coming on top from something. I think Brahimaj finds a submission. So my pick's going to be Brahimaj, and I think he's taking a submission home with him.
I agree with you 100%. I think Brahimaj by submission, and I'm guessing we couldn't really get the odds for that, unfortunately, but I'm guessing the odds are plus 200. That's a good underdog bet to definitely get your hands on.
So moving on to the next fight here, we got Darren Elkins versus Eduardo Garagorri. Tonight, break down the numbers for me on that.
All right. So the next fight on the card, we have a featherweight bout. We've got Darren Elkins at minus 250 and Luis Eduardo Garagorri as the plus 198 underdog. Elkins has a record of 25-9-0 with 14-8 in the UFC. He lost his last fight in May, and I believe he's on a 4-fight losing streak. He has 9 TKO KOs and 4 submissions to show. Garagorri, on the other hand, comes in a record of 13-1-0, just 1 loss, but that came in the UFC. He has 1 win and 1 loss in the UFC, which means he's starting out. Not the worst way to start, but still. And then he lost the last fight in November 2019, which is what scares me a little bit. It's just been 1 year since he's fought. I could see ring rust being a factor, but he has 4 TKO KOs and 6 submissions out of 13 victories. Give me your pick, Ian.
Man, this is a tough one because you got Darren Elkins on a 4-fight skid. He's 36 years old and just kind of seemed a step behind against some of the other guys who are all different styles. It's not like he's constantly getting out-wrestled. He's going against well-rounded guys, Ryan Hall and a jiu-jitsu specialist, Ricardo Lamas, who's kind of a more well-rounded guy too, but still picking up
Oliveira. He's fought some tough guys, man.
Yep, and picking up some tough losses recently. However, I think Garagorri's still kind of green, and looking at Garagorri's last fight against Ricardo Ramos, and kind of didn't really seem as up to elite standards. I think Elkins might is going to squeak out a money line win. I don't know if it might be a submission I can see looking at Garagorri's last fight or by points, but somehow I think Elkins is going to get back in the W column.
Once again, I'll agree with you 100%. Elkins is just way more experienced. He's 36 years old, which isn't super old. It's not like a 40-year-old, but he's had his fair share of time in the octagon, so I love that. I'll take Darren Elkins' money line as well at minus 250. But if you're really looking for some value, take him for a decision. I think that could work out as well.
Next up on the card, we got Marcos Rogerio de Lima versus Alexander Romanov. What do you say tonight?
Heavyweights, something's going to happen. Someone's going to get finished for sure. That's my bet. But Alexander Romanov, minus 355 favorite. He's fought once in the UFC. Great showing where he just dominated. He dominated his opponent on the ground and then got the submission. So he's 1-0 in the UFC, but he looks spectacular. 12-0 total with all 12 being finishes, 5 KO, TKOs, and 7 submissions. On the other hand, we got Marcos Rogerio de Lima, more of a UFC vet with a 5-4 record in the UFC, 17-7 total. He got a knockout win in February, so I'm sure he's very confident, but he has 12 knockouts and 3 submissions to show for it. I'll go first for this one. I really like Romanov to win inside the distance, be it knocking him out or a submission. I'm getting that line at minus 230 right now, so I'd definitely look to add that.
Yeah, I'm with you on Romanov too. He's undefeated. Looked like an easy UFC debut win over another debut guy in a second round submission. Arm triangle, same submission that Lima got lost to by Struve 2 fights ago, and he's finished every fight that he's been in. So I totally agree with you. Definitely a safe bet, thinking that he's gonna do it within the distance. Silva, on the other hand, all of his UFC losses, been by submission. It hasn't really beaten that kind of notable guy that makes him, I think, a bona fide, more dangerous guy in the heavyweight division. So for that reason, I'm taking Romanov as my pick, and I think he's going to get it done by submission. All right, next fight on the card here, we got Giga Chikadze versus Jamey Simmons. Tonight, let me hear it.
Another featherweight fight on this card. We've got Giga Chikadze as a minus 430 favorite, and Jamey Simmons as a plus 320 underdog. I'll break it down for you a little bit. Record of 11-2-0 for Chikadze, 4-0 in the UFC. 2 wins in 2020 already in May and October. 5 knockouts and TKOs and 2 submissions for him. On the other hand, Jamey Simmons is making his UFC debut, coming in with a record of 7-2. 1 win in October, but it was outside the UFC, obviously. 4 knockouts, TKOs, plus 1 submission. All right, so who we got, Ian?
Man, I'm looking at Giga Chikadze coming in undefeated in the UFC. He's been active, got 2 fights in 2020, got the kickboxing glory background. Hasn't lost yet, like I said, in the UFC, and we're looking at Simmons coming in with a whole bunch of first round and early second round wins and losses. I think the former glory kickboxing background is going to come into effect for Giga Chikadze here. I think he's going to get a TKO sometime before the second and a half round. Whether that comes or not, I think Giga Chikadze can be the keystone of everybody's parlay for this week. I don't see a way that he's losing besides the obvious puncher's chance in the UFC, but I'm using him as one of the cornerstones of my parlays. What do you think tonight?
I completely agree with you, Ian, about the parlay part. That's what I'm going to do for myself, minus 430 money line. Just because he's had 4 wins in the UFC and they've all been decisions, I think it could go out. But you're right about the Simmons part, that he could come in hot and then get caught by the more experienced Chikadze. But definitely take Giga Chikadze in your parlay to make the most out of it. Next on the prelims, we have a middleweight fight between Trevin Giles and Bevon Lewis. They're both coming in with a minus 110. Trevin Giles has a record of 12-2 and a 3-2 record in the UFC. He got a split decision win in February. And then he has 5 KO TKOs and 5 submissions. So that is something you can show for. And then Bevon Lewis coming in with a record of 7-2, but 1-2 in the UFC. He got a unanimous decision win in January, which was good for him. So he got that 1 UFC win out of the way. And he has 3 knockouts and TKOs to show for. I'll go first on this one. I just want to say to everybody that please stay away from this fight. I mean, it's too hard to call. They're both that's why they've come in with the same odds. But do or die, if I had to make a pick, I'd go Trevin Giles money line at minus 110. What do you think, Ian?
Yeah, I totally agree with that tonight. I'm seeing Giles and Lewis both with very similar skill sets, both with very similar skill levels. I'm definitely staying away from this one also. I'd recommend everyone else to stay away from it also. We got Giles coming in with a well-rounded win over Krause, who throws bombs. And both of them kind of stand and bang, and Lewis also kind of has that same stand and bang and has the bombs in his hands. So this could really go either way. I see Giles with a little more UFC experience, especially at a time like this, and they're fighting at the Apex, where I think that experience and being able to stay calm and not be shaken by the times and the lights right now. That's why I think if I had a gun to my head, I'm with you. Giles by money line, but also if I had a slingshot to my head, I'm not betting on it.
Yep, I agree. To kick off the main card, we have the number 4 ranked former title contender Claudia Gadelha taking on the dangerous Xiaonan. Gadelha opening up at a plus 116 underdog, and Xiaonan at a minus 142 favorite. Gadelha has actually fought a really good list of fighters in the UFC. She has a total record of 18-4-0, 7-4 in the UFC, and her last win was a questionable split decision against Angela Hill. She has 2 KO TKOs and 7 submissions, so that's something you can watch out for. Jan, on the other hand, has a record of 12-1-0, 5-0 in the UFC. I believe she hasn't lost since 2010, which is absolutely bonkers. She got a unanimous decision, one-sided win in February, and she has 5 KO TKOs to show for as well. Ian, what are you thinking here?
Man, this is another one that I think if I had a slingshot to my head, I'm staying away from, because Xiaonan yet to be really tested too much in the UFC. He's got a blemishless record so far with undefeated, 5-0 in the UFC. Gadelha, like you said, has been fighting some killers ever since her Joanna Jędrzejczyk fights. But recently, like you said, it's been getting some questionable decisions, and I've been questioning how elite of the elite that she is. You got Xiaonan coming in with some great stats with a 6.72 strikes landed per minute, which is fantastic compared to many of the other fighters. I feel like Xiaonan's a little hungrier than Gadelha, who's been in the spotlight like 8 years ago or 6 years ago or whatever it is at this point, and this kind of seems like she's in more of a downswing of her career, while Xiaonan, even though they're the same age, seems like she's kind of trajecting upwards more and still, like I said, having great stats. She's on a 5-fight win streak, and I think something that's important here to look at is that she has a 70% takedown defense, and Gadelha's best route to victory here obviously is the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, being a Brazilian herself, and taking her down, controlling her, maybe looking for a submission or just kind of controlling her for 3 rounds here. So with that being said, I think Xiaonan, if I had a gun to my head, I'm taking Xiaonan. As far as stats go, she has a lot better stats than her. But slingshot to my head, I'm not betting on this fight. What about you?
No, I'm going to be bold, and I'm going to take Xiaonan at moneyline. I think that's a good bet to make. She's on the up, like you said. She's moving up, and Claudia is kind of moving downwards, which is not completely true, but it's how their careers are going at this point in time. I think Gadelha, she definitely lost the fight against Angela Hill, according to me, even though she got the split decision. And if Hill can do that to Claudia on the feet, I think Xiaonan will be able to give it on the feet and win the fight there. So I'd take moneyline Xiaonan.
Next fight on the card, coming up with Ian Heinisch versus Brendan Allen. Give me the numbers on this tonight.
We got some more middleweights. We got Ian Heinisch, the number 15 ranked UFC fighter, minus 110. Brendan Allen, unranked, also minus 110. Ian Heinisch with a 14-3 record, 3-2 in the UFC. Last fight was a quick knockout of Gerald Meerschaert, who just can't catch a break. He has 5 knockouts and 2 submissions to show for. Brendan Allen, on the other hand, has a record of 15-3-0, 3-0 in the UFC. He got a unanimous decision win in June, which is pretty recent, so I like that as well. And then 5 knockouts, TKOs, 8 submissions for him. I'd go first on this one. This is also one that you'd like to stay away from because it's minus 110 for both of them. But if I had to pick, I'd definitely go Brendan Allen. I just like his versatility. I like that he has knockouts and submissions. He can do work on the feet and on the ground. Ian Heinisch still is a dog, man. He just grinds it out. He puts himself in the fire and gets it done most times. But if I had to pick, I'd go Brendan Allen money line at minus 110. Ian, what do you think?
Man, here's another one. I'm trying to give good betting advice. Ian Heinisch versus Brendan Allen. I think you stay away from the money line bets on either one of these guys. Ian Heinisch is a raw former drug smuggler. I think he has a cleft lip, which just means there's some dogs out there with some crazy mental fortitude. He's got pretty good takedown defense, which you can see when he fought Carlos Shoeface. and beat some other pretty good wrestlers like Mearshart, or actually I think he ended up losing to Mearshart and got Akhmedov, but has had been tested in the wrestling department, which is Allen's best path to victory here. However, Allen, on the other hand, has relentless takedowns, his very grappling-heavy approach, but has gotten better at his boxing and kickboxing as time has gone on. So this is another one for good betting advice. I would stay away from the money lines on. However, I think there could be a good pick-em prop here with Brandon Allen with a submission at plus 500. I think they've valued that incorrectly at plus 500. I think Brandon Allen has a decent shot of getting a submission in this one if he's going to win this fight. And plus 500, I think that might be a okay bet to make, or a good bet to make. So while I might stay away from the money line here, maybe a couple bucks on Allen by submission.
Yep, I'd throw a couple bucks on that, definitely. All right, up next we got a bantamweight fight between Raoni Barcelos and Khalid Taha. Barcelos coming in at minus 355, and Taha the underdog at plus 270. Barcelos has a record of 15-1, 4-0 in the UFC. He got a nice unanimous decision win in December of 2019, so he hasn't fought for a while. But he has 8 knockouts, TKOs, and 2 submissions under his belt. Taha, on the other hand, has a record of 13-2-0. He's 1-1 in the UFC, and he had a no contest in October. He's had a couple of no contests, if I can remember correctly. But he's finished 11 of his 13 wins, 9 knockout TKOs, and 2 submissions. What do you think, Ian?
So all those no contests, at least the last one, is for PED suspension. And I am never on the PEDs after the PED suspension, guys. Coming from Risen, which is a known kind of PED promotion over there. I think he might have built a career off of these PEDs, and you get suspended once or twice. We've seen some guys' his career kind of fall off after that. He's a man that's got another guy who's got some almost John Lineker looks and feelings, just throwing bombs also. So definitely dangerous, but mentally I tend to lean away from the fellas who are coming off a PED suspension. On the other hand, you got Raoni Barcelos, undefeated in the UFC. Has a bunch of not too many submissions, but also has a great submission game and jiu-jitsu threat. Lands 2 more strikes a minute on average than Khalid Taha does, and averages 2.5 takedowns in a fight at almost 60% accuracy to Taha's 60% takedown defense. So you got to assume that with Taha throwing bombs, Barcelos is definitely a not bad striker in his own right, but you think the best path to victory for him is going to be Barcelos looking in for a takedown, maybe dipping under some of the heavy bombs that he's throwing, and with a 2.5 takedown average a fight and the 60% accuracy, and Taha not having bad takedown defense, but not the best either. I think we might be looking at a Barcelos submission. However, I'm going to think a little better than that, and I'm going to take Barcelos at moneyline odds.
Minus 355 is the money line. And I really like that as well for a parlay. But if you want to be bold and go for it, I'd take the fight to Barcelos inside the distance because, as Ian said, they're pretty wild. Both of them throw bombs, and I think Taha's going to get caught. I don't love the PEDs either, and I don't usually bet for fighters who've been caught, but unless it's John Jones, obviously. But yeah, I like Barcelos inside the distance. I just think someone's going to finish the fight, and it's going to be Barcelos because he's a better fighter.
With the co-main event of the evening, we're looking at the old school boy, Andrei Arlovski versus Tanner Boser. Tanai, what are you thinking on this one?
I love me some heavyweights, man. People are going down. And we got Andrei Arlovski, the legend, the former champion, at plus 220. I'm guessing that's because of his age and it's because of his recent record. And then the fast rising Tanner Boser at minus 280. So Arlovski obviously has a wealth of experience under his belt with a record of 29-19. 20-17 in the UFC. It's more recent his losses have come. He was dominating before. He did bounce back to the win column when he got a unanimous decision win recently. And then he has 17 knockouts, TKOs, and 3 submissions for the Pitbull. Boser, the Canadian, on the other hand, I love this guy, man. Like, he comes in with a record of 19-6-1, 3-1 in the UFC, and 2 knockouts in 2020 in June and July. 10 total knockouts and TKOs plus 2 submission. What do you think? You know I'm high on Boser. What do you think, Ian?
Man, I'm a Boser boy, too.
For sure.
We got Arlovski. You know, when I was looking back at his record as established and decorated as a veteran as he is, doesn't really have the most super notable wins. You know, he got wins over like Roy Nelson, who was kind of good, or was a big name in his prime. Verdum, who's a great one to have, and Frank Mir. Those all came, a different era ago, a different age ago in the UFC, and recently losing to, Ngannou, Stipe, Overeem, Rosenstrike.
I mean, those are tough opponents, man. Those guys hit hard, all of them that you said.
You're absolutely right.
But yeah, he did his best work earlier on, and now he's slowing down. Definitely slowing down.
You look in the last 5 years, he's 6-10, not too bad, and 2-3 in the last 2 years. Again, not too bad, but you got more losses or more numbers in the loss column than you do in the win column. And you look at the common opponent in Felipe Lins. You got Boser coming in the first round KO. Tons of fast hands, feet movement. And then you got Arlovski with a decision with a lot of low output. And you can look at those and compare them, and Boser looks like the much better guy. And more than anything, Boser's more active. He puts out more punches. He puts out more combinations.
And he's getting better with each fight.
Exactly. And he's doing more. And Arlovski is doing less and less and less each fight, which he's a heavyweight, and he's been around for God knows how long, racking up all the fights that he's had and put all the miles on the engine that he has. You start to put out less. Tanner Boser, on the other hand, exact opposite. He's putting out more, and instead of squeaking out W's like Arlovski kind of has been, Boser's been putting the pedal to the metal. I got Boser by points. I think that's a great prop bet for this one. Arlovski is still a beast. He's taller. I don't know, or Boser still has a good chance of, or has a shot of knocking him out. So Boser by money line is a great bet. Also, as a cornerstone or a keystone to parlays, he's a lock for the parlays. But Boser by points coming in at plus 155. It's a 3-round fight. I think Arlovski can survive the lighter, less powerful Boser. Granted, he is a lot faster. But I see Boser by points at a plus 155. Get a good underdog money.
I definitely like Boser by knockout at plus 185. I just don't think Arlovski's chin holds up after all the fucking damage he's taken and things like that. He's been knocked out plenty of times. He's been in wars. He's just taken too much damage. And Tanner Boser, like I said, he's just getting better, man. He used to be like just a bruiser, and now he's controlled chaos almost. He knows when to throw. He knows when to lash out, but he also knows when to take a step back. And I think Boser's going to make it 3 knockouts in 2020.
So the guys that Arlovski has got knocked out by, you look at, it's been Ngannou, Overeem, Rosenstrike, the last 3 ones on it, which are all just the fucking bangers.
Yeah, they're pretty much the most powerful guys in the division.
Right.
But I don't know, man. I like the speed for Boser. Like you said that too. Like I like that speed.
That speed.
Factor,
I think the fastest, maybe the fastest guy in the heavyweight division right now. Low key, not the best, but the most nimble and fastest on the feet wise. Just looks like a little fucking squirrel out there.
I absolutely agree with that, man. And that's why I like him to knock out Arlovski tomorrow on Saturday night.
So Tanner Boser as another keystone lock for your parlays.
All right, for Saturday night's main event, we have a light heavyweight top title contender fight between the number 1 ranked Diego Santos and the number 3 ranked, the very well experienced Glover Teixeira. Santos is a minus 230 favorite and Teixeira plus 184 underdog. Thiago Santos has a record of 21-7-0. He's been up from middleweight to light heavyweight. Light heavyweight definitely found more success. 13-6 in the UFC. His last fight was unfortunately in July of 2019 when he lost his split decision. A close fight to the champion Jon Jones at the time. But he also hurt his leg really bad. He had a meniscus surgery, ACL tear. All these things just went wrong for him, unfortunately. But he still held on very well. 15 knockouts, TKOs, and 1 submission for Thiago Maheta Santos. And then Glover Teixeira, a record of 31-7. He's super experienced, super skilled on the feet and the ground. 15-5 in the UFC. He's fought for the title as well before. He's found a rhythm now that he's put up, I think, 3 to 4 fights in a row. He got an extremely one-sided knockout win over Anthony Smith in May of this year, which was as the underdog. Might I add to that? He has 18 knockouts and TKOs plus 8 submissions. So, Ian, who's gonna win this weekend?
Man, that's a great question. I'm looking at both of them. I'm looking at Santos coming off of, a multiple surgeries on his knee, multiple torn ligaments after that great fight with Jon Jones. Watched it recently. Definitely won a handful of rounds there. Less controversial than the Dominic Reyes fight, but still maybe in a different timeline, he wins that fight. Before that, he had a 3-fight finishing streak, and he looked good and explosive against Jon Jones, like I said. So I think he might be looking for the early KO. We've seen Glover be in trouble early in some of his fights recently. But even though he's old or getting old, he's still down to bang. You look at
he's so good.
You go back to some of the Iwan Kutalaba fights too, who's a scary ass dude, and he's got hurt in the first round, but didn't shy away at all. He's not gun shy at all to bang with that. Unfortunately, I think that's going to play into Thiago Santos' hand with a lot of early finishes and coming in with some crazy explosive power, especially in a 5-round fight. I think Thiago Santos, money line, if you can get him a double chance on FanDuel coming out of Philadelphia or using the FanDuel, you can get the double chance on it. I think by points or by TKO, Thiago Santos is a very safe bet. Another one I'm looking at right here is Thiago Santos, first, second, or third at plus 100. I think that's a great odds for that one. I'm looking at Thiago Santos money line and slapping a couple bucks on the Santos first, second, or third at plus 100.
All right, yeah. I'm going to go with Thiago Santos by KO TKO at minus 120. I think Glover has the advantage when it comes to the ground, but I think Santos is too strong to be taken down that easily. Another threat, obviously, coming off those injuries and surgeries for Santos. I think he's going to do just fine with that. He was so badly hurt against Jon Jones, but he still kept coming forward. I don't think he came forward, but he was willing to bang with Jon. And, he did well with the takedown defense there as well. And I think he has that power, man. He's going to take out Teixeira, unfortunately, for Glover. So, Thiago Santos, minus 120, KO TKO.
I think that old man's strength might be running dry. We could be proved wrong, but Glover Teixeira might be coming to the end of his rope. He's the man. Been surprising people for about 8 years, but I think he might be coming to the end of the rope, especially after a young, hungry buck in Thiago Santos. Welcome to the Plus 350 Challenge, where me and Tanai Shaw did the research for you to figure out the plus 350 underdog bet lock of the week. Tanai, what do you got for us?
All right, so I got a 5-fighter parlay for you guys. We got Alexander Romanov, Giga Chikadze, Yan Xiaonan, Raoni Barcelos, and the man Tanner Boser, all at money line. And then that takes our total up to plus 368 for odds. Ian, what are you thinking?
Man, I'm looking at Thiago Santos, round 1, 2, or 3 to get the W, and Tanner Boser by points, bringing the total to plus 405, making a good chunk of change. Again, Thiago Santos, round 1, 2, or 3 at plus 100 odds. Tanner Boser to win by points, and that's going to bring our total up to plus 405 for the plus 350 challenge, lock of the week.
So we come to an end to who's going to win this weekend. After hours and hours of research, Ian and I gave you some lovely picks and previews for fights this weekend. We'll be with you every week. So stay tuned and let's make some money.
Make some money, honey.